and work one of them Monday through Friday. And the other one Tuesday through Saturday. And that would only leave one day for one of them to go down and get an hour and a half's overtime. That's providing no other call-outs, you know. But just on a regular schedule, nothing goes haywire.
Well, I've always been used to our water department, with the water department that I work with. We had 4 employees in the water department, and they all worked 840s, and then they had 2 people that were on call rotating weekends. So if we had 2 people one weekend and 2 different people do the next weekend, then they would switch around, and 1 or 2 of the first 2 would have the overtime, the call out on the weekends. But we're not that big of a department here. We have 2 people, so we have to take into consideration their schedules, and we're gonna get a lot of help with this.
I think you get more out of people on a 10-hour day, they get more done. You're-
Usually.
Usually, it just gives you more work time for your hours.
Mhm.
You're required 2 breaks, the 8-hour day,
Mhm.
depends if you start early and work late,
Depends
get
on
off
where you
early,
take your breaks.
it messes it. But if you're working 10 hours and still take your 2 breaks, you still have more work time. I know in the summer, the school likes to work 10-hour days.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I don't blame them.
I work whatever I want.
I have a question. How many overtime hours between the time that they're doing the water samples and the time that they're actually come here for the meeting once a month? He comes here for
They
the
don't get
meeting.
overtime for coming to meeting?
Oh, they don't? Okay. How many hours of overtime are you guys paying? Is the city paying
On
out?
an average every month?
Yes.
I would say about 4, maybe 5 hours.
So
Average
$20
overtime.
an hour. You got it's $100 bucks.
Figures out to
No,
be
it's
more
gotta
like
be more
12
than that,
hours,
because if it's 3 hours every week,
that's 3 times 4 would be 12.
Yeah. If there's an hour and a half every Saturday and Sunday, that's 3 hours.
and I'm just thinking back as to when we signed the things last time, I think Mike had 5 hours overtime, and I'm not sure what,
That was probably because, was this at the last meeting? He's had 1, 2, what was it? 3, I think, water problems, breaks and whatnot down on Lover's Lane. In the last 2 weeks, they've been down there off and on. Then yesterday, I just got a call from a lady that lives down there this morning, and she had some problems, and Mike went down yesterday and was talking to her, but it was not overtime. But they had been out there on the weekend at two different residences for
Yeah.
water breaks.
I have one more question. I understand you have 2 employees, okay, that are the maintenance people.
Mhm.
Do they actually write reports so that the town, you guys, their bosses, actually know what they've done recently? That's a lot of money at $20 an hour, 2 guys, that's $40 an hour the town's spending right now.
Well, one of them doesn't make $20
Well,
an
okay,
hour.
well, I apologize for
Way
the
less than
number,
that.
but I'm just saying, is there actually a report that you got, a bang for your buck, that you guys actually know, you can, as me as a person who lives in this town says, what are our guys doing all day?
No, but
You-
there's going to be.
Okay, well, that was, okay, that answers my question, thank
They
you.
had, 2 years ago, the former mayor, after budget sessions and council discussion, printed up a work schedule and a hourly schedule. They needed to say what they were doing, where they were at, what time they did it, what time they got done. That lasted about 2 months, and then it was done. And the last time, in the November meeting, I asked about that schedule, and the mayor at that point said he had given them a schedule, and it worked for about 2 months with Mike, and that was the end of it. He said he wasn't gonna keep one.
So if an employee decides not to do what you guys say,
Then it's insubordination.
Okay,
When we're ready to go.
and they get written up
okay, thank you.
after verbal
Okay, thank you.
reprimand. Okay, Jim.
Okay, this is a schedule. I worked for 13 years for Montana Power. I'll go through it. The yellow is hard to see, but I'll explain it. You start on Monday. If you know the T, that's for Terry. He works Monday through Friday. Mike works with him Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Then Terry is off Saturday and Sunday. Mike works the weekend, and he works the full week, and then what it
And
boils down
rotates.
to, they have every other weekend off, they have every other Thursday and Friday off.
Mm-hmm.
You have a man on duty 7 days a week. If you have to work on a call out, you have one man on duty.
Right,
And then on the getting the water samples, you have a man on duty. That cuts that overtime out.
It's pretty close.
And in answer to yours, I run a natural gas compressor station for Montana Power, and this is the schedule. I worked for 13 years. One guy
I
on
was
them,
just
on them
looking
days.
at,
We had natural gas compressors in a field, and we
Bill,
had wells, oil wells, whole 9
Bill
yards.
Sears, Bill.
We only required one guy on this schedule, and I worked this sucker for 13 years, and I really liked it.
Working 8-hour day.
well, and I
They
think,
work 8-hour days.
And I just figured in 10 because 10
okay,
is
so
more
what is,
productive
the
time.
blue and the red is what,
Depends on how you're working with, Bill.
is what, Bill?
Those are days off, I think.
The red is work days and the
Let's
blue
see.
is days off?
Let's see it. I have the notes up here.
Similar to each other. Just like, cause yours on 8 and his on 10.
This is on 8-hour
Yeah.
days. You have a man working 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
They
No matter what, you
They
still
work
got
3
some
days
overlap.
together, every week they work 3 days together.
Those
Yeah,
just shows who's
every other
off
Thursday,
that
Friday
day.
off, every other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That's-
And that way you still got days to go out.
You've always got a
Things like
man
that.
Numbers show what days they'd work.
I like that idea.
No.
Yeah, that's,
Now,
would
if we have to dig a hole on Thursday or Friday, you gotta have both guys on overtime.
Right,
With this schedule, you only have one on overtime, which you have to have. Government
Yeah.
says that.
yes.
Actually, the government says you should have 3 guys on. You should, one running backhoe, one down in the ditch digging, and one guy standing up on the bank watching.
I should be one of them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The guy standing up above the hole on the bank watching is
watching.
usually making 35 or 40
Yep.
bucks an hour.
You gotta hold the shovel. On the fourth hand, you gotta
you're
there.
That'll you up, Bill. I'll be the hole watch.
That's the best job.
You just sit there and go, okay. It's all good.
Okay, well, this is mostly what we kind of wanted to discuss with this hours, because everybody had discussed them before, and so we decided to review some of this and get some different ideas. Now, Jim's brought up this schedule.
Mine was just a rotating
couple of-
5 and 2 and then a 4 and 3, but I wasn't aware that
That's-
we had so much that we actually had to do on the weekend, so this is, between this and Bill's, it's 6 one, half dozen the other, that's a 10, this is an 8. I mean, 2 out of the 4 pretty much came up with the same schedule, I mean, that's kind of a good thing to look at, I would say.
And then on holidays, they can alternate, you know, if it's their weekend to work, why, they can
Or they can substitute for each other when necessary.
substitute it, you know, you could work out a 4-day weekend.
Yeah,
like
you can
this.
trade it out and say, hey, I got this.
I wasn't trying to
Yeah.
throw stones or anything, but the slope thing was mostly safety concerns. They need to look at what they're doing. I mean, if you need 2 or 3 men there, you need 2 or 3 men.
Absolutely, they're illegal as
You know,
hell,
so
there's no
that's
question
all
about
I
it.
was saying.
Yeah.
You're digging very deep in
But
this
you-
ground.
because
Yeah.
I had never had any problem with working alone like you.
Yeah, anything over 6 feet, you gotta have 3 feet,
Oh, yeah.
you gotta
3
have
people
one
there,
and one
yeah.
and a half to one slope
But
on top.
they need to look at the
And
safety.
the thing of it is that when they have dug, like over on our corner,
Mhm.
they dug 8 feet down, I think, or something like that. And they had a couple of guys from Bridger that came over and helped, because we kind of interact and go back and forth and help each other out. And that worked out pretty good, because then they had more than enough people to come up to the Fed standards as far as danger and safety issues.
Well, I read something in the ordinances about upon election, that there would be someone appointed to oversee the Public Works Department and the city clerk and the police department. And,
That is only in
Mine is
cities that
just
have
simple out
that
there,
ability
everybody
to
could
do
just-
that. We
I
don't
like
have
this
that
better than my
ability
idea.
to do that.
Who makes sure that like the town employees are safe, like that they're following the OSHA standards and whatever else? Whose responsibility is that to make sure
Mike's.
that they are?
They're supposed to be doing that, he is the department head or director. And then I always follow up, and I have talked to Mike, I don't know how many times in the last month. And,
Do they go to OSHA training?
yes,
I don't understand we don't-
TJ is pretty new, so he hasn't been to a lot of schools yet.
But does he
as-
have a certain amount of time he has to get his OSHA training in, or does the town supply
He
the
will
OSHA
be
training?
here a year next November.
Yeah, I think,
Next November, so he has that year in order to get certain schools in.
And then he has to do it, or the town supplies that?
He has, well, he does it, but we pay for the training.
But
If it-
it's his responsibility to schedule that.
Right, right,
Gotcha.
and Mike gets all those scheduled trainings, schedules on his computer from all the agencies that do that. And then then they'll come and, Mike will come and say something to me, and I'm always willing to send him to school. You know, if it's
Well, I know,
something that I
like-
think is worth it.
My brother's construction company, he has the trainer come in and gives them the class.
Yeah, and we could do that, but that's usually put on by, private companies that do the training. And if we did that, it would probably cost us in a range of anywhere from $200 to $500 more than it would for us to send them to Great Falls or to Bozeman or Missoula to take that training.
Okay.
So we're, because of the budget, that's what I'm looking at most, is the budget. And so we have to, and right now we've got a lot of things going on with that, so,
I was just curious.
yeah.
Does that price include gas and travel and hotels if they have to go up there?
If they take their own car, we pay them mileage, and we pay for their hotel.
But that sounds to me like that would start chinging up too.
It does, but if they took, right now, Mike just got back from Great Falls for a water summit, for the lagoons and whatnot. And yeah, it does add up to a little bit of money, but he can't take the town car, it would have never made it. It's not built for the mountain passes
So
and the snow
what
and
I'm
ice
talking
up
about
there.
is the difference between sending them there or somewhere closer.
We try to get them as close to Fromberg as possible with these seminars, but most of those water seminars that are put on by, the summits and stuff, the water summits, are always done in Great Falls.
So what about the OSHAs?
OSHA will do, sometimes they have them in Billings, sometimes they have them in Bozeman, but as far as I know, they haven't had them in Great Falls. And they do have them in Helena, and I am getting a schedule from MMIA, which is the Montana Interlocutory Government. That's who we have all of our liability insurance from and our health insurance and things like that. And they did send us a schedule for training, and they always send us schedules for training, for things, federal training, like OSHA and things like that, so.
Okay. Well, I was just curious, you said it was so much more, and so I was just curious.
It does cost more to have a trainer come down here because we have to pay their travel time, plus their hotel room, and they'd have to drive to Laurel or Billings to do that because we don't have anything close.
Bridger has a motel. Well, I've never seen it, I just know they have them. Looks good from the outside.
I gotta hide a bit in the bar.
Right, and then we would
About
have
the
to,
same.
of course, then we have
About
to
the
provide
same
their
deal.
meals and their
Well,
mileage
more
and stuff like
comfortable.
that, so.
Oh,
In the long run, it is cheaper for us to send Mike or TJ or Brenda to Great Falls or to Billings to get that training.
okay, but then, and one more thing, I'm not trying to be ugly, but
No,
if you're having two people trained at one time for one expense instead of sending two people to other places.
But then we
Is
wouldn't
it
have
still-
anybody here for emergencies.
Yeah, we need to.
We need to
can't-
have
you can't
somebody.
send
You got
the whole
Jim and
crew.
Pam, what do you want?
Well, legally, they are not supposed to do that. They cannot as
If
legally.
you wanna
as
go by
council.
your OSHA rules, it's like
Right.
going into a warehouse and trying to help somebody load your truck. You
Yeah.
can't touch it.
Right?
That's right. So, yeah, we always have to have somebody, one person at least here.
Okay,
And
well,
if
that
we,
makes
if
sense.
we had 3 people working, that would be fine, we could do that. Budget doesn't even, barely allows us for 2, so,
When I dealt with OSHA, was to meet them at the door and tell them they were not allowed inside the building without a search warrant. And they would go away. The last one showed up in the mid-80s and said, "We're building a caseload in this area." We said, "Good luck, we'll see ya." They
okay,
never
so.
came back.
So, we're not gonna vote on this
No,
tonight.
no, we just wanted to discuss it, and then we will, either, vote on it at the April meeting or at the budget session in May.
Well, This,
After
this
the budget
schedule,
session, because this is a good schedule.
I like this schedule.
Yeah,
I
There's
really
not
like
much
it.
to complain
Yeah.
about, you still get Thursdays off, you still get a Thursday,
Huh?
Friday, you get
Might have to go to work.
weekends. I mean, it's easy to plan around, you can flex
gotta go
out,
to
and you go,
work.
hey, I got 4 days off, you can go camping for that weekend, I mean,
right.
it's the best thing about having something like this, you
Okay.
still get your hours, you still get
Well, you
time.
can't, if you work it out right, you only have 3 days here.
Yep.
You take 3 days vacation, you get a whole week off.
Mhm,
Yeah.
exactly, right.
Yeah,
Well, were we gonna discuss Brenda's hours?
we had discussed
60
those
hours a week.
before, so, no,
I don't,
We-
Bill here's gotta go to work.
we can if you want, but, I think the main purpose was to discuss the public works hours right now. But you can
Okay.
bring that up if you want to.
Well, I would just like to know how everybody feels about, I know Brenda gets 40 hours a week.
Mhm.
Does she need less, or how do you think it would work if we did less? If we did 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, would that?
Personally, I think she needs twice what she has, but that's my opinion.
What was that about? I mean, what did you mean by that?
Needs more hours.
She needs
more
2 weeks
hours?
to do a week's work, is
Oh.
my opinion, and that's all.
Why?
Shouldn't
I don't know,
have said that,
that-
huh?
Why?
Do we need to have the city open 8 hours a day?
It didn't used to be.
Okay.
When did Brenda get her hours extended, about 3 or 4 years ago?
I don't know.
It was,
I was
They
only on
weren't
the
always
council,
that way?
I was only on
No.
the council for
No.
3 years before,
no, it wasn't.
before this.
What do you
Well,
think?
we,
What was Elroy? Elroy was he
we
forward
had a
to
lot
you?
of discussion at the
Part-time,
farmer
yeah.
advocacy meetings and stuff. She shouldn't need the amount of time she's getting to do the job she's doing. That was basically the bottom line of all the discussions we ever had about it, that she could be Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but
Well, I've made arrangements to come down and, like I told Brenda yesterday, we are going to close the city hall for at least 2 days, maybe 3. And I'm gonna sit down here and we're gonna go through everything that she does. I'm gonna go through all those files and, get those redone and thinned out and a few other things, and probably trash about 40 years worth of files that we don't need to have. And so we will see how that goes.
Isn't it
I
by
would
law,
like-
I apologize.
When I was doing accounting work for accounting firms, we had a legal tablet. That was our worksheet. And whenever we opened our books to work on a client's account, we wrote down the name of the client, the date, the time that we started. When we balanced that sheet and got everything done, then we would write the ending time, because accounting firms charge by the minute for their work. They say they charge by the hour, but when you add it up, it's done by the minute. So we would go, and you had to have the exact time. If you started a sheet, an account, a client's account at 1:15, you couldn't just say 1:15, you had to put 1:15.27. That second works with that time frame. And that's the biggest problem that, talking to Mike about a
So-
schedule, because he does not want to keep a schedule. He does not want to be micromanaged.
And it's not micromanaged.
No, it's not. Got it.
So why are you waiting till April to make this decision? I mean, this is just the
Because we
beginning
have,
of March.
actually, what we're doing is, the way
Well, it
it's
is only 1
working
month
right
now.
now, we have to stay within our budget as allocated, all the allocations in the budget right now and the expenses. And we cannot actually talk seriously about changing hours and stuff until that budget session comes up and we start rewriting the budget and setting a new budget. So that's why I'm waiting, is
That's
because.
only a month, I was
Right,
still in February,
Right,
sorry.
we're,
Okay.
we're gonna start budget talks in May, budget workshops. And it's always open to the public, as usual. And,
However, having this schedule, or having
but
this,
we want to discuss some of that stuff ahead of time so that we have a little bit of a preview of what we wanna look at. And that's why I asked the councilman to actually work up a schedule so that we could talk about that and get that kind of set up so that when it comes to budget sessions, we can do that. Because believe me, we're gonna be busy for the next 2 or 3 months, and we are not gonna have time to go over a lot of this stuff.
I
Alan?
have a question. By Montana state law, records are only by law necessary to be kept for 10 years under Montana state
Certain
law.
records.
Certain records. So I'm just saying all the data that you would have to add in, that's a lot less data because it's only 10 years
Right.
of records.
Everything for the last, as far as I know, for the last 10 to 15 years have been backed up on a disk.
Okay.
So that they are available if we have to go back and look at this. Audits, state and federal audits, the tax revenue that we get, any kind of financial things, we have to keep for 10 years. Anything else, like 3 years ago, we could get rid of, go in the files and get rid of all of those vendor sheets that, invoices that we've kept, because we already have a hard copy of it on the minutes, we already got a hard copy on the backup for the computer, so we don't have to keep things like that. But the things that matter, and then of course we have to save everything that has to do with CBG grants, TSEP grants, all of those things that we've had for the last 10 or 15 years, we've got to save that. Anything that has to do with water lagoons, projects, streets, water lines, we have to save that. So there's still gonna be some boxes. This little room back here is stacked with 40 years of files, and they have never been opened. So, there's a lot of work we need to do.
okay. So, to get kind of back, could we bring this schedule up on our next meeting? Because we're not changing anybody's salaries.
You're not, no, everybody's
No.
working 40 hours. a
40-hour
week.
weeks, okay, okay.
Yeah, no
we'll
matter
change
how,
the
you
books at
no
all.
matter how you set it down, it's still gonna be 40 hours a week, whether they work
Okay.
5/8 or 4/10.
Yeah.
It's just that the schedule will be rearranged just a little so that there's,
What we got? Done?
any more discussion. Nate's ready to go home and hit the sack.
You gotta go work a long day.
It's been a long day.
I have one question.
Yeah, now.
We had a dog bite incident with William when Ralph was still here. And something was supposed to be handled like in February, but who knows where all that's at. So who do I talk to about
You
that?
bit the dog?
No, we bit the kid.
The dog, yes, and I've seen those photographs.
Cause didn't McQuillan
I-
say they were gonna go through the evidence room and make sense of it?
And the sheriff's office did exactly that. They have cleaned out everything since we contracted with the sheriff's office for law enforcement here. They have taken everything to Red Lodge, they're gonna go through all the files, and they will do any follow-up that needs to be done, but it's gonna take their person a few weeks to get all of those files sorted out. Plus the fact that I'm gonna have to request some things from them too, and I don't even know if they have them, I don't even know if Ralph had them, so.
So I suppose if you have a question about it, then you probably have to get over to the sheriff's office.
Yeah, you can call the sheriff's office, talk to Josh or Jeff, one of the guys over there, and see if they have got information on any follow-up investigation of,
There's supposed to be a court hearing, but,
was that set with our town judge?
then Ralph canceled it until February, and I haven't heard nothing. since.
Okay, so that might be a pending one that that the sheriff's looking at right now, because he said they had one pending file, and I will try and talk, well, in fact, if you can call Harlan County Sheriff tomorrow and see if that file is still open and pending, because you want it to get taken care of, because this was supposed to be a clear file.
Okay.
But did he actually set a date for a hearing?
This is sometime in February.
Hmm.
No set.
See, and I don't know anything about that, because I did not have access to anything that Ralph had in his office.
I know the city judge or whatever was working on the case, so I would think
Jackie.
she would know something too, but.
Jackie Shara.
Do you have a phone number for her?
Maybe Hope Freeman, do we have a lawyer?
I don't know if
Are
Hope,
we done with our workshop?
Yeah.
Shall we
there
go?
you go. Okay, motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, Spence. Hey, good, and Pat. Motion to adjourn.
Everybody's
Meeting is
leaving, that's a
adjourned.
yes.
Thank you. Yeah, man,
Thank you, guys.
let me write a note,
I worked at the.
and,
Especially with. I mean,
let me,
vacation
I'll-
required
while I'm on the
and
phone,
everything
or I'll
like that. You
have
could trade
conference
that
call
schedule, you
at 10,
could
so
have
I'll
a
be
great
able
summer
to-
if you wanted to, you still have your hours. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'll call Josh and, ask about,
You're not leaving until Monday, huh?
No,
Yeah, we were
I will
all
be-
celebrating now at the bar, drinking.
dog bite. I think I know what you're talking about.
Sunday.
Sunday.
Sunday. I don't even know what time it is.
Thank you for
Sunday.
coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
It's always nice to have.
There's more than one issue, I think.
So-
Neighbors
I'm
that
really
look
good
at
with
this and say, hey, I'm the neighbor.
that little mess over there, so,
No, it's good.
but I'll call Josh and see if he
Well, I
has
wouldn't even know what was
any
going on, but Tammy was like, did you
pending
know?
files with that, and
Okay.
tell him that the
Well,
court
see, we
date
did
was
just kinda,
supposed to be set
we
in
depend on the
February, and they
committee, and
haven't
say,
yet,
yeah, this
so,
has been madness and
in
that,
the
everything's
meantime,
okay,
he
so.
can get hold of
Okay.
Hope. We'll
Yeah,
get
no
hold of
problem.
Jackie, and she can set it
Right.
up.
It wasn't till
Sounds
May.
good.
Yeah, because that should have been taken care of in January or even December. It
Well,
should
they
have
were
been taken
gone,
care of.
so
Yeah,
he couldn't be here, but,
I'm glad you came.
But this
why
happened
they-
during the
Well,
summer, didn't it?
thank you.
yeah, when that happened, September.
When did he get bit? I thought it was like September, October,
Yeah.
September. Seeing that court date, the hearing should have been at least in
It was
October.
scheduled for November, but they weren't here, so.
They weren't here?
We left
You left?
the country.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, I'm leaving again.
Really?
Yeah, taking Merle to Honduras for diving classes for 3 months.
Oh, lucky you. Mm.
Diving or driving?
Diving.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be-
Oh, there's-
Scuba diving.
There are some really cool things off of the coast there.
Yeah.
Believe me. Yeah.
So we're excited. He didn't want to ever do it, and then I
We
told
lived in
him.
South America and Central America and South America. And it's, I go back to heart.
I never wanted to come home.
I know. Lived in China too, but I did want to come home.
The people in Nika are pretty
We'll
fabulous.
see you guys.
Thank you, Nate.
Yep, we'll see you.
Good
All
night.
right, good night.
Thanks again.
Jim, that's a good
Good night.
thing.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
It is.
Nice to meet you.
Sucker out, where you take vacation, or just 3
See you
days.
later, Andy.
Well, on your 3 days, if you just take vacation for 3 days, you can work it out for a week.
Well, Nikki, did you get any?
I wish I had something like that.
Nikki,
Well, I
That's a
love
really
it.
good plan.
Yeah, it is.
That sounds
It
really
is,
great.
it is.
Yeah. Did somebody turn that off?
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just
Did you
remember-
get any good information out of this?
Well, you know, as I listened to everything, and I listened to the meeting that we were having tonight, it seemed to me that we really need to take the zoning requests really seriously and really look at them like the way Tammy was looking at them and dissect them before we ever sit down and have